let's just quickly walk through the steps. So I
Perfect.
really want your listeners to understand the process. It's really important. And actually, let me caveat everything I'm saying right now is I provide training to agents who sign up on Assume List that are interested in becoming a niche expert in this field. And I would encourage every agent to learn more about assumable mortgages. Case in point, like I'm having a record year in sales this year. Um, has nothing to do with interest rates being high or low. I disconnect interest rates from buyer demand because I offer my buyers something that very few agents can do, and
Yeah.
that is helping them through this journey of buying homes with assumed mortgages. So I would encourage every agent to sign up and learn more about assumptions. And I provide, and my team provides training and answer questions, and we help them through this process. So just the broad brush strokes of how the assumption process works. Buyer submits an offer, seller accepts the offer. Remember, they do have to have a pre-approval letter. So everybody always asks, well, do they need a pre-approval letter if they're going to apply with that servicer, that lender? The answer is yes, right? They have to show up to the table and submit their offer with a lender pre-approval letter because that's how it gets their foot in the door for the seller to actually have some confidence in knowing that somebody reviewed that buyer's financials. So the seller's not wasting their time not knowing whether or not the buyer is actually qualified to purchase their home.
Okay.
So every buyer needs to have a pre-approval letter. They're never technically they're not going to be using that loan officer who issued that pre-approval letter if they ultimately do pursue the assumption. But if they end up taking out a new loan, of course they would. But it's still required nonetheless. Once the offer is accepted, contract ratified, the first step in the process is the seller needs to contact the servicer and say, "Hey, I'm under contract to sell my home. Please send me the application or the initial documents that need to be filled out to start the assumption process."
Yep.
And that servicer will send that seller an initial questionnaire, application package, an orientation package. Every lender talks about it. It's a little bit different. I think Freedom Mortgage calls it a loan assumption package, and it's like a very short, abbreviated form. It asks who the buyer's names are, contact information, phone number, and then there's also every lender also requires a third-party authorization form because they need that to talk to the buyers about a loan that the buyers' names aren't on. Right? If you and I tried to call up any lender and ask about, the details of a loan, they're going to say pound sand. You you have I have no authorization to talk to you about this loan.
Right.
So that third party authorization now gives the legal authority for that lender to talk the specifics about that loan with the buyer and theoretically the buyer's agent and listing agent. I always have one as a buyer's agent. I always have a third party authorization form for me as well as the clients. And that allows me to call and have a conversation with the lender to find out what the status is and check up on things.
Go back to that again a moment because
Yep.
I think that's a really important point. So you are getting a buyer's authorization form when you're working with a buyer right out of the gate because you want to hear, because rather than just the lender telling the buyer who's never done this before, you want to hear what they're saying. What did you just tell my buyer?
Yep, exactly right. I want to be part of as an agent, I want to drive the train and be
Mm-hmm.
engaged in the process because ultimately I want to get that home to closing and I want my clients to know that I'm still engaged in supporting their needs.
Yeah.
So if I'm not able to call the lender and have a conversation with them because there's no authorization on file allowing them to talk with me, then I'm basically cut out of the loop. I'm worthless. I mean, I'm effectively not doing what I should be doing, which is to help facilitate the closing
Yep.
and I want to be part of that process.